Zinnia Fries, on behalf of our strategic management class, I'd like to welcome you. I'd like to thank you for your time that you've taken this evening, even though we experienced a bit of load shedding. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to do a quick introduction. Mr. Luvuyo, LT Tshoko, is a seasoned and well-respected manager across national and provincial spheres of government. He has a wealth of 15 years' experience in senior management positions. He has 3 children and is a champion in mandating organizational transformation. He is currently the head of strategic management for the Eastern Cape Gambling Betting Board. He manages diverse portfolios such as stakeholder management, marketing and communications, research and development, and risk management and corporate social responsibility. He has previously worked as directors for the Department of Health and Department of Civilian Secretary. He has also worked very closely with the MECs in those departments. Mr. Tshoko has a master's degree in media education and studies from the University of Natal and short courses from universities such as WITS and UCT. In his time at the Eastern Cape Gambling Board, he has been able to turn around the adverse opinion that the Eastern Cape Gambling Board has received regarding performance information to an unqualified performance information opinion by the Auditor General of South Africa. His key competencies and skills are in change and people management, business management, and strategic development. Mr. Tshoko offers young and old minds aspirations of going to either public or private sectors and to see beyond their limitations and more fundamentally for their contribution in the growth and development of the Eastern Cape citizenry and communities. Mr. Tshoko, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you very much. It's the first time I'm hearing that. That
version.
Yes. It was written by one young guy at our work. I think they were doing profiles. So we just did that.
So you haven't seen it?
No, I saw it. He gave me because I had to vet it.
In his defense, I did summarize it a bit more due to load shedding.
Maybe let's apologize for the load shedding. But you guys, you are doing honors.
Yes.
And your area of focus?
Area of focus is marketing.
Okay. So you look at issues of the experience. Because when you market something because you want them to experience a product or service.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Chief? And you are?
Oh, my name is Nagamso.
From?
Nagamso, the man from Pato.
Okay. Boss?
I'm well. Also do marketing.
So it's no strategic planning. All right. I see that. Boss?
Well, I'm justice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not being someone like
You're not studying?
no strategy.
Which area of focus? At honors level, you should be knowing by now which area that you want to focus on.
Marketing.
Marketing as well. So this is a marketing class. You must invite me for marketing sessions. Yeah? For instance, there's a sub-one that I work with, social development. No, that one.
I don't know what
Okay.
yeah.
So you share the name and you share the surname. She's also voice.
Oh yeah, is that
That one, yes.
Okay. Okay, I don't know when. But my passion is in sport business development, training and development.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that's your area that you're going to be continuing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. And you are also the one as class. All right.
Okay, I'm Silana Mutati. I'm from Stutterhead, and my focus is also in marketing.
Mm-hmm. By the way, you can't do marketing without strategy.
Yeah.
All right, because for you to be able to identify your market segments, your market products, your clientele, you should be having knowledge, a very significant one, of strategy. Okay, Sisi?
My name is Luvuyo, and my area of focus would be management. Not necessarily just marketing.
Which part of management?
Management.
Maybe marketing management, so it's close to marketing.
I don't think so. My area of focus is marketing.
Marketing management. I think Doug gave a class here of marketers. Maybe you need to have a project that they must develop, or think of a product that they can market so that you are saved from ESCOM.
My name is Darlington. My area of focus is in the future. I love finance.
So the bean counter, that's what they call it.
It's just,
It's in your hands.
that it happens.
All right, great.
My name is Lamesh Warren. My area of focus is financial management.
So, all right. Both the counters.
My name is China, and my area of focus is
Marketing. But I do understand that you are not a student.
I am.
Oh.
I'm not sure if that's a compliment or an insult.
A senior student.
A senior
Introduce yourself.
Yes. My name is Zinia, for anyone who doesn't know in this class. My area of focus would be women in small business.
Women in small
Yeah.
business. All right. And it's Women's Month, by the way.
Yes.
And quite a number of women who are here, 2, 4, 6. So it's over 50% of the name. All right. Strategic management, you guys, you do that as one of the electives.
Yes.
Is it? But you can't be forced to do an elective. The mere word that talks elective means that you have chosen to elect that one.
No, they cancelled the one I chose.
So what is it that you wanted to do?
I wanted to do small entrepreneurship, small business.
Uh-huh.
So they cancelled
You
it.
cancelled that one. All right. I'm so sorry about that.
No, but this is nice. It was meant to be.
Definitely.
We'll spend an hour, 6:30 to 7:30. Maybe to call it 20 to 7? No. So 7, maybe call it to 8. Because of the load shedding.
Oh, yeah.
Fine. I speak too much. I realize that I'm trying to compress my presentation this time. I realize that I speak and I enjoy speaking. But the doc asked me to come and speak to you guys, and I realized what he's trying to do. What he's trying to do is something that you are experiencing at work with our interns. The interns that we are getting are interns that when we assess them, we feel that there's a huge deficit and a gap when they're in the workplace. Remember the internship program? It is to give you an experience of a workplace. So assume most of you guys have not been to a workplace, even if you are doing honors now. Have you been at a workplace?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm full-time employee at Motown, but my focus is on civil engineering.
all right.
Yeah.
This is afternoon,
Yes.
evening classes. So majority of you are you working? So she's working. Who else is working? Intern? Intern where?
The Department of Health.
You see, I'm going to talk about you guys. And I used to work at health. All right? I found it very strange that when they come and join various departments, they appear to be people are starting to learn in the true sense of the word. And most organizations, they do not have time to teach you guys because there's always a pressure to do something. I normally say to them, but they must enjoy the work. They must enjoy the learning, all right? So that when they leave becoming better persons, will be able to find employment, or will be able to construct their own employment opportunities. Unfortunately, we are still in an education system that teaches us to seek for employment. We are not an education system that teaches us how to create employment opportunities. But that's something that debate. That's what you guys, I think, must do as honor students and ask that question as to how we can seek opportunities of learning to create these jobs. Purpose, I think I was asked to speak on the nuts and bolts of strategic management or planning. All right? And I'm hoping that it will relate to what you guys do. As majority of you here are marketing, there's finance, business development, it requires a strategic thinking, it requires a strategic planning. And then you said what to do? Small business as well. There's always this requirement that whatever business that you're going to be doing, there's supposed to be a strategy, a thrust, a planning that you're supposed to do. So we'll talk about that. There was a question as to what is the definition of strategic planning, what is strategic planning. Most of you, if you're in the class, I assume that you did in your junior degree some course or management about strategic planning. Who's the first person here, or who's the first student here, and this is your first time that you're interacting with this course? All right? You never? Okay, not all of you guys. All of you. But now I'm not going to do the strategic planning 101. Of course 2 or course 3. I'm not going to do that. I thought this time I must speak at the level of an honor student, a postgraduate student. Hey? So that's how I'm going to pitch it. And I'm hoping that you guys will really learn. I've brought some books here that I think can assist you. All right, but they are mine. I'm just going to tell you how. They are easy to read. I was using them at the Stellenbosch. I just completed a course at Stellenbosch, the Senior Management Development Program. It has a variety of courses, and one of them that I enjoy is around strategic management. There's marketing that we did, there's finance that we did. It's a quite heavy exercise, quite heavy program. So I'll share with you guys these 3 documents. We'll speak to some of the business models that are utilized when people are doing a strategic plan. Remember that issue of the SWOT analysis? What does it mean, the SWOT analysis? What are those abbreviations stands for?
Strengths.
Okay. I was never a good choir conductor, so that I point you and say, okay, so who wants to start? Just, okay?
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities.
So in organizational businesses, they are always asked to determine and analyze whether the organization has some strength, weaknesses, all those issues, all right? So it's the so that relates to that, but we are going to do it the other way around, all right? In analyzing a business before you do a strategy, right? The doc asked me to just to speak some of the challenges that we experience and contextualize that with our own environment. Just for me, upfront is a challenge, is that we receive interns from where, when I ask them to think about what they want to do in future, they are unable to tell me. You hear me, guys? When I ask them, you are here, you want to do an internship, all right? But in the next 5 to 10 years, what is it that you want to become? They're able to relate that to me. So I'm not sure whether it's a strategy issue, or is it an inability to reflect on the person, or maybe you guys are studying for the sake of studying. You are not. So you can't invest your resources for the sake of studying. You invest your resources when there's something, there's an end result that you want to achieve. So there's a strategy here. You didn't come way up and decided to do what? To come and do this course. There was a strategy behind, there was an end result behind, all right? And that end result you should be able to define on your own. All right? In the next 5 years?
Well, the next 5 years, well, I do know, but it's what I want to do. I want to create personal wealth, my net worth. That's what I'm working on currently. I need to build my net worth. With working.
So your end result is becoming what? A billionaire?
Not a billion. No,
Yes.
Yes. I can think that far, but what?
So we can measure that. Now she said in the next 5 years, she wants to become a billionaire. So we can measure that. So that when we approach the last year of these 5 years, we should be asking, how far are you now? All right? So how will you do that to ensure that you build and create this wealth?
Property.
All right? So you'll buy property, you'll invest in property. How would you acquire the property?
Okay. My plan is have a group of 5 friends. We save up money. We save on a monthly basis. At the end of 2 years, see how much we have made on, obviously, we will decide on how much we are going to put up.
So strategy is
to get 5
a
friends,
number of people who have never been into estate.
Okay.
Or you are the only one who appears to understand this concept.
Okay, well, I'm the only one that understands the business side, but I know that we share the same dreams of traveling and all of that. So if I come up with an idea saying, listen, we need to save up, let's do this. I prefer property. Buy property, develop, sell, or lease out.
Okay.
That's
So the strategy seems not to be very clear.
well, it's not fine-tuned yet.
Okay. So see, there's a strategy which she was talking about. And she said that it's not clear, it's not fine-tuned. It seemed for me to be confusing. She spoke about traveling. There are a group of people who like traveling. And
But
I'm not sure whether I'm going to be creating billions
That's
at that
why.
stage.
That's why they need money.
All right. So we'll talk about some of those challenges. This confusion when people develop plans and you're not sure as to what is the focus of a plan that people develop. Talk about in developing businesses for women. Why businesses for women, not human beings?
Well, it's not necessarily not for human beings. I mean, women are human beings as well. So it would more be a study, well, on the development of a woman as a
The end result, let's say your end result, while you're here.
My end result would be for me as a woman to be in a position of leadership and to have, whether it's a holding company and subsidiaries underneath them, but to build myself up.
So how will we measure you? How are we going to measure you that you've achieved your end result? What should we know about you from today? So that in the next 5 years, there was a great young looking lady in a class of Dr. Luvuyo. She said she wanted to, so how will we know that? What would be that end result?
My end result would be to have my empire.
All right. She wants to have an empire. All right. Net worth of an empire?
Big place. Okay, I haven't got that right.
So we'll speak to those issues. Well, they all relate to the topic that you are going to be writing about. All right. It's not a train smash. It's something that you guys perhaps are living, but you have not been applying it, or you have not been thinking about it. All right. Especially within the business environment, whether it's marketing, whether it's people development, whether it's finance. There's always one strategy around financial management. There's always a cost. There's always the issue of prioritization, of ensuring that how you incur costs. All right. The costs that we are incurring are informed by a strategy. So there's always an element of a strategy. So we'll just do a summary and conclude. Instead of asking the question as to what is a strategic plan, I thought let me leave that to you guys. And go and find out and go and read and go and Google. All right? Because you have all the means to do what? To access information, isn't it, guys? You have that ability and the capability of that. So I'm not going to ask that question as the first topic for the address here. I thought perhaps maybe let me just zoom to the significance and the importance of what strategic planning, all right, as a process. So we're talking about planning as a process, not as an end in itself. Do you get it? Do you get it, guys? It's a process of trying to achieve something, but that process is informed by using research, historical data, and some creativity. In other words, when you have to plan, there's some work that you need to do. You need to do some research. Marketing, if you want to get what, you want to ensure that you have a great marketing plan, you need to do something. All right? Research, why the research? Because you want to develop a strategy maybe that will be different from other strategies. You've seen most what is called strategy plans. People producing strategy plans. You've seen in the municipalities, they talk about IDPs, integrated development plans, all right? That guides them, what is it that they're going to be doing in the next 3 to 5 years. You've heard an organization, they talk about business plans, they talk about corporate plans, all right? Those are not just developed willy-nilly. There's always a research. So as a strategic planner or somebody who's responsible in a company, in an organization, you're expected to do some research about that organization or about an environment that your organization will be operating. Talk about small business people, development companies. There's a space that you want to explore. You are expected to conduct some research. Or there's a historical data. Remember, you guys, you will be joining some companies, all right? And some companies already have a data of information, they have a data of knowledge, and therefore that knowledge helps you to build or to develop a strategic plan or a strategy as an organization. Because you're not coming to an organization that is a tabula rasa, enslaved. There's data that exists there. Maybe there's some creativity that you guys may be given. That's what I normally do at work. I always bring my own creativity in developing a strategy of the organization. Because I've got this view of myself that if I'm a person responsible for a strategy of the organization, I always say that, but I'm the only one who guides what the organization is supposed to be achieving. Because I know the data, I know the information, I know where we can take or we can take the organization in the next step. All right? If you read today's Daily Dispatch, I think on page 4, the Auditor General presented the audit outcomes. The financial guys will know about this thing. Remember, organizations are audited, all right? And the public service is audited by a statutory organization that is called Auditor General of South Africa, which is established by a piece of legislation. So they audit all public entities. So you read that Daily Dispatch, you're going to find that the Eastern Cape Gambling and Betting Board for 2013-14, 2014-15 is the only public entity that has received a clean audit. I was trying to follow what you were saying there. And I think there's also ICSEC, which is part of the OTP. All others, they've got unqualified audits. So the finance guy will be able to explain the difference between a qualified and unqualified audit or an adverse audit, but we got a clean audit. Because I think we have developed appropriate strategies that we're utilizing in the organization to ensure that we're able to achieve our desired results, all right? So when you are in that environment, you are expected to do some of these things. You don't just get to the organization and say, I'll do a strategy. There's this input that is required. It's called a balanced input, all right? Because the environment that people operate, the business operate, is a competitive environment. The second part is a consideration of what? Of processes, thoughtful consideration. All right? I normally say that refers to your strategic conversation within a company or within an organization. All right? Remember, when you develop a strategy, it's a process of engaging all various stakeholders about what has to be achieved over a period of time. All right? So the second aspect about the significance of this process is that thoughtful consideration. In other words, listening to all your key stakeholders and engaging them. All right? If you are to do a marketing, who do you think you'll speak to? Who do you think you'll have an engagement with? Other marketing guys here? When you do your marketing, there are people that you need to engage about your marketing. So who do you think will be able to engage with so that we have those thoughtful considerations? All right. Okay. Now, who will you speak within that targeted market?
The consumer.
The consumer, okay? Consumer, because they're going to be marketing a particular product, but let's segment that consumer. Let's segment that consumer, because when you do your marketing, you need to have a strategy of ensuring that your products, when you market them, are able to reach a particular segment or target. So who will be those targets within the market environment? You guys are the marketing gurus. There's a finance guy.
You could have a low income segment, a medium income segment.
Right? The LSM guys. Remember the LSMs? LSM 1 to 5 is a low, whatever, your LSM 6 whatever, and then your last LSM 8 to 10. Those who have everything. So now, when you are going to be having a marketing strategy and you want to market a product, it means that you need to perhaps to have some conversation. How will you do that conversation with them? What approach will you utilize? Okay guys, you know what I do? I always allow people to speak and I start here. So if you are asleep, unfortunately, it's hard luck for you. And we all speak so that everybody can hear. It's a conversation amongst ourselves.
Okay, you could go for advertisements in the media, or you could...
No, if you want to speak to that LSM, what strategy will you use here? Not advertising. Remember, you have not yet started advertising a product. Perhaps you want to test that product, all right? And then you want to speak to a particular LSM. Sissy?
I think now with Facebook, the other platforms are doing things like Facebook.
What will you do with Facebook? How will you utilize Facebook?
Like we said previously, we talked about research, so you could use research as you introduce the product to the people and allow the people like...
Give me an example of a research that we can use. Give me an example of a research that we can use. Okay, let's end here. So you can have survey, all right? Survey using a questionnaire, distributing a questionnaire, or you can have a telephone survey, all right? Asking people, have a conversation with people about what you want to market, all right? It's a thoughtful consideration because you want to achieve a certain aspect. In a company, you always have an engagement with the board of directors, all right? Because these are the people who are shareholders in a particular company and who have a stake in that company, all right? In organization, we are always told that a strategy is a responsibility of a board, all right, or of shareholders. Remember, the shareholders, they elect themselves and they establish a board of directors, and that board of directors with the chairperson are expected to develop a strategy. So that thoughtful consideration begins there. To say, how do we take this organization to higher heights? How do we ensure that this organization doubles its returns? How do we ensure that this organization becomes a matured organization that is sustainable, that everybody is getting their own returns as shareholders? So that's one significant aspect about strategic planning. Thirdly, is the path, is the direction, or the course that you want to take in terms of what? In terms of that organization. Of course, when you strategic plan, you need to be able to influence, you need to be able to guide, you need to be able to show this line of path, that if we are continuing in this manner, this is what we're going to achieve. In other words, for the next 10 to 5 years, these are the results that we need to achieve. She said she wanted to become a billionaire. So the line of path is very clear, all right? The line of path is very clear. She wants to become a billionaire. But what we do not know is how to reach. She has not informed us the steps to reach what? That end result. But the path is clear. She's convinced that she's going to be what? She's going to be a billionaire. All right? We're convinced that an organization will reach its own returns, will double its returns, or we agree that a company will increase its own market share. Most companies, people are investing in companies because they want a stake in market. So they'll speak about a market share, and they'll say, no, for the next 3 years perhaps, we need to increase the market share about 15 to 17%. All right? In other words, their stake in the environment, in the market, they say they want to double perhaps from 10% to 17% to 20%. So the line of path is very clear, the course, the direction that they want to achieve. But that direction should always be what? Be unique, be different. All of us want to become what? Billionaires, isn't it, guys? But we can't be billionaires in the same manner that she wants to become a billionaire. You know, others are going to be corruptors. Others are going to steal, others are going to rob banks, because they have their own strategies, and those strategies are incorrect. Even if they're working for them, you become a billionaire, but at some stage you know that that strategy is not morally and ethically correct. But that's not where we are. Where we are is that that course, that path is going to be a very competitive one. So strategy revolves around this competition to outdo others in the market. Comparison between Pick and Pay, let's leave Pick and Pay. Comparison between Cell C, Vodacom, MTN, well, these are different companies. So what will be their own competitive edge? Marketing. Guys, let's see. So I point, guys, so that I see that people are here.
Which might be the strategy that I use.
What is that strategy? Remember, these are 3 independent companies owned by different shareholders, but they're all selling us the airtime.
The pricing strategies.
Or maybe the question is, are they different, these 3 companies? Are they unique in their approach, in their strategy? Do you experience, remember marketing and advertising is about what? It's about experience that you acquire as a customer. Are they playing in the space of ensuring that we experience their different unique capabilities? Guys, come back. That's the space, remember. I brought that one deliberately because almost every time we pass at Forte, everybody's on Twitter. And I did that assessment. I just took pictures of all of you guys. I'm going to show you here. What is the strategy between the 3 companies? But
I think MTN, it's they do sort of they use prices and promotions and discounts to do
low.
Then when it comes to Vodacom, they use the service. Their service is efficient, is effective when you're using Vodacom. So they use it to customers as well.
Cell C?
When it comes to Cell C, it's difficult to differentiate it from other.
There are 2 heads. There are 3. I'm noting 1, 2, 3. I'm noting the heads. Yes, sir.
Okay, you should have started through from MTA, from Cell C. Cell C offers the lowest cost of all the providers.
Well, I was not aware about that.
So
she's disagreeing.
On Cell C, there is free data, there is a lot of stuff. So Cell C is low cost strategy.
Okay.
MTN, it's middle. It's sometimes they're in the high. They try to fight to match with Vodacom on quality, but sometimes they fail. And Vodacom always excels on quality.
So Vodacom's experience of you is quality.
Their quality is good.
And that's your experience.
Quality of service is
No, agree with me that that's your...
Vodacom and MTN, they're competing on quality because they couldn't compete on price.
Okay.
Because on price, MTN was beat by Cell C.
Okay.
I think Cell C's main focus is on social media because they always say that it's free Mixit, free WhatsApp, whatever. So Cell C is. So their main focus is on social media. That's how they.
So that's their strategy.
That's their strategy. Social media.
To offer that free package.
Yes.
I was not aware of that.
What Cell C has done that was so amazing and new to the market is when they could buy you.
You love Cell C?
No, I don't, but I'm just looking at something that's new. I'm not on Cell C, by the way, but what they did is they offered a new, what's the name, an offer where they can buy you out of any contract that you are currently, because currently you can't get off any contract.
But Cell C does
Cell C
that.
does that. It was amazing. It was new to
So there is a competitive edge in all these things that you guys are talking about. But ultimately, it's all about what? It's about profitability, it's about growth, it's about the maturity of the organization. That's what strategy is all about, all right? Started about researching about, because it seems as if you guys, you've really researched about the cell phone networks. All right? But lastly, colleagues, guys, there's an issue of what of a focus, all right? The significance of planning is about the ability to focus, the ability to identify priorities with the resources that are available. She wants to become a billionaire. Let's start there. Is there a focus of becoming a billionaire? Are the steps very clear that will make her a billionaire? All right? So what is the focus of Cell C? That makes them to be competitive, that makes them to be able to grow. Are they mature enough? I am not sure. I have not tested them, all right? And that ultimately they become a mature organization. But what is their focus of action? What is it that they specialize in that they don't necessarily change up until they do their own strategy? Somebody?
I think one thing that they don't change is about their pride. They are mainly focused on low-income earners, or people who
So their market segment is very clear.
Yeah, it's those people who have little income. Because the moment when you find someone who can offer you free.
Okay, let's test that. How many here are on Cell C account?
I'm actually buying money tomorrow.
She's buying 2, 3. So only 3. So it means that it might not be correct. Because we've just surveyed now, out of what? Out of 11 you guys, only 3 guys are on Cell C.
Because of efficiency. People sometimes change for efficiency rather than for cheap things. Because if you check even in the market, people don't necessarily run for the cheap products. They run on how.
So they will run to Vodacom.
They will rather run to Vodacom.
How many are on Vodacom here? Whether it's a pay as you go. I'm also Vodacom, by the way. So they're plenty of us. So it tells a story, all right? That there's some focus. And you are saying that maybe Vodacom is specializing, is telling a story, a strategic thrust of what? Of quality of what? Of provision of what? Of service, all right? All right, I said I would want to leave that one to you guys, but it came. So it's a management tool that helps an organization or business to focus its energies, its resources, to ensure that members of the organization are working towards the same goal. Remember, she spoke about her friends who likes to travel, all right? But those ones, I don't think they'll be able to assist her to achieve the end result. But a strategy by its own is that management exercise, that management tool, where the organization is trying to focus on something, it engages different people, it sets goals, all right, goal of achieving what, efficiencies of providing a quality of service, it assesses itself as to whether it is going to be able to do what, to achieve that. It's a pattern of actions and approaches. Remember what we were doing here. we're trying to assess your own individual strategies. So there's a pattern that is emerging here that I've already identified. Some that are very happy with what? With Celsius, some are very happy with Vodacom, some are marketers here. So it's a pattern, all right? And remember, that pattern can never happen without define. You can't develop a strategy without having done what? Perform your research, looking at your data that is available, and also becoming very creative. I always say that if you're in that environmental strategy, you need to bring your own experiences, your own creativity. It's an issue of thoughtful considerations. Remember, we are speaking here what? Management engaging in different approaches, all right, of building an attractive organization where it is expected to achieve its goals. Board of directors by themselves, all right, have this responsibility of ensuring that actions, approaches, strategies are implemented. So there's that engagement among themselves as well as management that is expected to implement the strategy. I think for me the last one is intentional. Strategic plan is a process that is intentional. Even if you want to start your own business, small business for women, remember, you need to do something. You need to start somewhere. You need to set your own goals, all right? Remember I'm saying you need to set your own goals before you can even set the goals of your organization or of your business. Sometimes people in business, or many people who want to get into the business, they start setting goals of the business, but they're not setting goals for themselves. In the next 5 years, what do you want to become?
I have a PhD.
She wants to have a PhD. So she has a goal to do what, all right? But also she wants to do what? She wants to start a business for women, all right? So I can rely on her because she has an individual goal, all right? And therefore, that ability and capability of thinking about her own goals, she can apply in the business that she wants to do. Some people wake up early in the morning, I want to start a business. But what are your own goals? Before you can even respond to the goals of this business that you want to achieve, to the end result of your business. So it's an intentional process. Strategic planning is an intentional process of setting those goals, of choosing the desired future. I am not sure now, what could be the desired future of a school? Oh, it's not to supply us with what? With power. I grew up knowing that ESCOM is here as a strategy to supply. Remember, initially they used to supply power to who? To a few small minority in our country. Now we're in trouble, all right? The strategy has to change. Remember the strategy, because the environment now has changed. Many people are accessing the power, accessing the strategy, and now there's a shortage of what? Of generational capability of that power. All right. So it is an intentional matter. So you want to get into this organization, you want to start this business, or you are already in this business. You are then given a task to facilitate the development of a strategic plan. You don't wake up or say in the morning, I'm going to write the strategic plan, I'm going to read Tony Manning's management tool, all right? Because Tony here teaches me how to write and develop a strategic plan. Or I will use this book by Dr. Hackcroft, Spain, about strategic thinking, a game over. All right? You don't necessarily do that. All right? Is it cold? Is it hot? You don't necessarily do that. All right? But what you do, you've got to research and understand the environment where the organization is performing, where it is. And that environment is informed by an internal dynamics of an organization as well as an external situation where that organization is operating. Vodacom, Celsius, MTN, they operate within a particular environment. Do you agree, guys? Business operates within a particular environment. Currently, in the gold mining sector, what is happening now? Okay, this is you guys. What is currently happening in the gold mining sector now? And how is that environment? All right, your head first. I got guys, this one is yours. You are in the business management. You can't keep quiet. You should be knowing. I can even ask you what happened at Polukwana today, this afternoon.
Julius was hearing.
What happened about it? All right. Oh, I can see. What is happening at the gold mining sector now? Business guys, you should be knowing that one. Don't be worried about you guys. It's wages negotiations. Isn't it, guys?
Letting go of some people as well.
They want to dismiss about 5,000 if they don't agree. So the business, the mining industry is challenged and is operating in that environment. That must understand as what is happening internally, must understand externally. We'll go to that. We spoke about gathering the data information, all right? Historical data, new data, you've got to do survey. Customer, remember we spoke about the survey here? We just did a survey here because we want to know as to what will the end result be if you develop this strategy. You want to ensure that one of the other issues that you examine your situation, this is what normally companies don't do, and also the public service, that they don't engage employees about their organization that they work at. I normally say for me, this is the resource that you have. Wealth of knowledge, wealth of data you get from what? From the employees. No employees, they can tell you why the stock is running out in the organization. Every time you do your supply chain matters, you're trying to do your stock taking, but you find that no, your stock is running down, it's going low, but we're not making money out of that stock. You know where you get that information from? You get it from the employees. Your ability to engage employees during strategic planning, just to have focus sessions. They tell you a story that you may not be aware of, about the organization, about the weaknesses of the organization, about the absence of internal controls, all right, in the organization. But they won't say that they are stealing. But you can determine in the conversation that this organization is not a mature organization. It does not have financial controls. It does not have internal stock controls. And therefore, for me, this is key. There are these business models, guys, that are normally used in business when developing a strategy. Normally, you find people saying that we are going in Pekweni Fish River. That's what the University of Fort Hare also does. You find, I'm not sure about lecturers, whether they engage lecturers. You find the managers at the Fort Hare, they'll go all the way, let's say in Pekweni, spend there perhaps 2 days and say they're going to be developing a strategic plan. All right? So they go out and there's always fun, but we do not know when the fun will bring good results. But they do it. All right? But there are certain business models that are utilized, and the unfortunate thing, they tend to start with what is called the SWOT analysis. The SWOT. Yes. And they will want to analyze these acronyms. So they'll start their strategic plan, people speak, whatever they speak, and then so let's do a SWOT analysis of the organization. So they identify all the strengths, this and this, this and this and this. They'll then identify all the weaknesses of the organization. They'll identify all the opportunities. They'll identify all the threats. All right? And what they will do then, they will group strength and opportunities together, and will group weaknesses and threats together. And the session is done. Now we know the strengths, we know the weakness of the organization, we know the opportunities, and therefore let's work on those. done, and then somebody must then complete the document, and voila, there's the strategic plan. I think the approach that is emerging, that this exercise is the last exercise if you want to craft and understand the environment where the organization of the business is performing. One of those business models that are being utilized is Pastel. Okay, what's that Pastel stand for? You guys should be knowing this one. What does Pastel stand for? I was never a good choir conductor. Somebody have not spoken here. Which one? I think the gentleman, the financial group here. Pastel, what are those acronyms stand for? Remember, we're talking about evaluation, analysis of the organization in terms of the environment. So Pastel stands for?
Political, economical.
Okay, we'll find what is it. T.
Technological.
E.
Economical.
Now we have that one.
Ecological.
Okay, environment maybe.
Environmental.
Legislative, legal matters. So in other words, you see, Pastel, you want to analyze your own organization before you develop the strategy from an external environment. The mere fact that we speak about issues of political consideration, in other words, you are taking this organization of yours and begin to relate it to what? Towards those what? Towards the political dynamics of the organization, economic issues, S for. The S stands for social matters, all right? How does the organization respond to social, economic, environmental matters, all right? And also to legal issues, compliance to legal requirements. The other one is what is called the 5 forces analysis of business. You all know that one. We'll look at it. So I always say to people, utilize these 2 business models. We'll look at the second one. Because they assist you to analyze your organization from an external point of view. All right? Then also utilize these 2 from an internal point of view. Don't start with the SWOT analysis. The outcomes of the 2 will give you the strengths of the organization, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the what and the threats. You'll see that. So analyzing the organization, guys, one of the business models is what is called the McKinsey 7S framework. We'll look at it. And also your balance scorecard. You should have heard about balance scorecard. Everybody likes balance scorecard. And ultimately, the outcomes of the analysis will show you what are the strengths of the organization before you can do what? Your planning. What are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities, and what are the threats, so that you are able to analyze. I won't go through that. Pastel is a very easy one to understand, because you want to understand how is the organization responding to political dynamics. There's an old guy who's always critical about the current government. He's a black guy, he's in business. He was the chairperson of group of banks in South Africa. He's always writing critical articles, papers about the political environment. Remember guys, in business you interface with what? With the political environment. Political environment, there's a ruling party that's governing the country at that time. All right? So of course your business is operating within that environment. Do you understand that environment as an organization? When you analyze and you plan, are you aware about that environment? Are you aware about the environmental requirements in your organization? Are you aware about the social requirement, your CSI issues, CSI, corporate social investment aspect? Are you responding to the social needs of the country? Are you compliant with your legal prescripts, your King Code, 3 reports, economic issues in the country? Is the economy increasing or improving? We're told that when economy that is stagnated. It's a jobless economy, that's what we're being told. All right. So in developing these strategies, are you aware about these issues? That the technology that is there, the ability to utilize IT, all right, when you plan and develop your own strategies. So that analysis, that research is about an external environment that will be able to tell you what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, opportunities of this organization that are working for as a strategic planner. The 5 forces analysis of business by Michael E. Porter. Right? This guy here is saying, for you to also to understand the external environment, there are critical issues that you must be aware of. Business people, what are the threats that may be brought by new entrants in your own sector of business? Let's look at the manufacturing sector. Manufacturing sector is dying. In fact, it has died. I'm in Cape Town. Many people who have lost their jobs because of what? In the manufacturing sector. Almost manufacturing sector, the clothing sector, this and this, all right? So what is the cause of that? Somebody's talking about China, all right? So China throughout the world is not only becoming a new threat, it's a threat now. Why do things like that? Why are they able to produce en masse the goods that they supply us now and again? Why is China a threat to all economies of the world?
Because they produce more products at very cheap prices, which creates a considerable competition.
How are they doing that?
Because of economies of scale, they produce large quantities using less resources, which allows them to sell at cheaper prices.
Okay, they produce en masse, all right?
Mm-hmm. Because of their technological advancement.
Okay, they have technology, all right? The other reasons? Cheap labor, that's what people say, cheap labor, all right? And as the country is working good for them, I'm not sure whether that's right or good, but what would the other reason?
The other strategy, political back from African governments, where they get to have resources, where they access resources in return, they because of their big fat pocket, they can.
It's a large population, right? Remember, there's an element of cheap labor, but people they work 24/7. Are you aware about that? People they work 24/7. The machinery does not stop there in China. You land in China at 12 midnight from South Africa or from somewhere else. 12 midnight, they take you to what? To their fans. They ask you, you want a quality product, you want a fake, you want this and this. Do you want a suit, tailor-made suit for you? They take your measurements now. They say, sir, please come back tomorrow, you will get your suit. They don't sleep there. That's what we are not saying. And the previous president said that South Africa sleep too much. Threat, all right? The other issue, the bargaining power of buyers, all right? Remember, there are certain buyers who are able to bargain and buy en masse the products, all right? And that has a what? That has a what? Some competitive edge that we need to consider as a what? As a strategic planner in an organization. People come together, all right? They want to buy, and when they buy in power, they're expected to receive what?
Discounts.
Sizable discount. It's a normal what? Business transaction. So that buying power enables them to do what? To get those substitutes, all right? What about substitutes? Some company may want to bring new products on the market, different to what we have. What impact will you have in your own market, in your own company? Somebody wants to bring a totally different new product similar to you, but the market will enjoy it, the customers will enjoy it. Any example about that, perhaps?
There's Oreo, these are the soap powder, washing powder that was introduced recently. There was recently Sunlight, these are the two, Omo Sun, and these are the two different types of Sunlight. Then Oreo was introduced, which people were saying, no, it had a good scent, and it had stay soft in it, so you don't need to use stay soft. So people started to prefer.
Okay. What about laptops? Just thinking, I've seen people. Tablets, touchscreens, those are the what? Those are the new substitutes that are killing what? They killed long time, the laptop killed what? The desktop. Remember? Already now you have what? You have tablets that are also themselves dying, but now you have got a very compatible laptops that are touch screen. It's the what? The substitute. So this potency that begin to understand those. When you want to create a strategy, begin to understand. For marketing purposes, it's applicable, begin to understand. You might be marketing a particular product that is what? Is of old age. Maybe it's just a year old. But it's no longer what? It's no longer in demand by what? Bargaining power suppliers, you have got a number of suppliers who want to come together, produce goods, and supply you, all right, in your own company, because they know that, of course, they'll get what? A fair share deal from you in terms of selling you that product, all right? Then there's this one, rivalry among competitors. So there's always what? A competition, except those that are non-competitive. Remember the Competition Commission here in South Africa that charged during the 2010 World Cup? Remember what the story happened there? A number of construction companies clubbed together and behaved uncompetitively. So there's a law that is addressing a non-existing competition. That's what they did. They colluded, all right, instead of competing. Well, the strategy to do what is to compete. Remember, we spoke about a competitive environment. All right? Business is about a competition. A strategy that we develop is to ensure that there is a competitive environment. Internally, guys, in an organization, this is another model. Look at the structure of the organization, the 7S. Look at the systems that are available in the organization. Look at the style of management and leadership of that organization. Look at the staff. Is the staff that is expected to perform, is it ready, able, is it well-skilled, is it knowledgeable? Look at the skills, strategies, so the set values, all right? You'll get guys this, don't stress, so internally, remember we look at the what, at an external, we started with what, with pastel, then we look at the what, 5 forces, all those guys are intended to identify what? You're going to find people saying that the management style of a business is not great, all right? It's a threat to a what? To the growth, to the maturity of what? Of the company, right? Remember, you were not analyzing the SWOT, but you were analyzing the style of leadership. So when you analyze the style of the systems in the organization, you then begin to say, we see that there are threats, or this leadership is very weak to lead this organization to greater heights. There are no shared values in this organization. The absence of shared values means that this organization is very weak, or there are certain threats, all right, in this organization, or it does not have this strength because there is no shared value. Everybody does this, finance goes this way, supply chain goes this way, marketing doing its own thing, corporate sales doing all. So in other words, there's no shared value. Parasco card. Also internal in the organization, all right, this business approach, begin to analyze historical data. Remember I spoke about historical data? Begin to analyze the finances. Are the finances, the resources of the organization going to be able to achieve what they want to achieve? But then for the shareholders, remember shareholders are people who are owning the company. Is the market share the returns that are going to be yielded in this organization, are they going to be successful? Are they going to be appearing great to the shareholders? The business processes, all right, in this organization that seem to be lacking internal controls, lacking processes of supply chain, lacking processes of financial control, no marketing strategies, right? No training of people in the organization, all right? So in other words, the systems there are what? Are terrible. Customer care. Do we hear Trevor now? Do we listen to Trevor now? Do we ever listen to Trevor now? Listen to Trevor now about customer care. I'm going to go tell you what he's saying. Just listen to Trevor now about customer care here in South Africa. He said that whilst the world is going this side, South Africa in terms of its own customer care is going this other way around. Have you been to Spa? What those ladies say to you, how do they greet you? Can't recall. Plastic. They call us plastic. You are supposed to be checking in at the airport. 70 or 40. Oh no, we are no longer there. Just go to there. It's not our fault. You've missed it, you've missed it. Or something like that. Terrible, eh? But you go to other countries, you find this solid voice as if it's programmed. But in our case, all right. So you know these things, all right? Of course, when you do not have a great customer care in the world, you are not going to have what great strategies to improve and retain that customer base. Isn't it, guys? Because you're not responding very well. You're not even engaging these customers to say, how do you think we provide a service to you as an organization? If an organization does not learn on its own, all right, there's this thing of learning as well, to learn and begin to say, oh, last year this is how we performed, all right? But this year maybe we need to do something differently. So many organizations do not do that self-introspection. They don't learn, and when they don't learn in their own operations, in the way that they do things, they will never grow. So our strategy is all about, guys, it's just about this thinking, it's about implementation of these capabilities, it's about the business model that we spoke about, it's about the stakeholder support, the customer support. I'm not going to go through those things. These are the things that at this stage, guys, I need you to read so that when you prepare your test, well, it's going to be asking about these issues, all right? Strategy is about this thinking of how do I become a billionaire. All right, last year I started there. You want to go to that other bridge, how are you going to go there? She said there's no bridge there. So what will you do? You just sleep. How will you move from one point to that other point? So think about it. All right? So crossing that bridge is building what? A strategy. So building that bridge, you're beginning to do what? To conceptualize a strategy, because you want to move from this point, from a point of having 10 rands in a pocket, to a point of having what? R1 billion in what? In 2020. All right? So in other words, when you do your strategy says that by 2020 you want to have what? R1 billion. So what is going to be the strategy? What is going to be the thrust? Vodacom, we want to ensure that we issue the best quality service to their clientele. All right? So what is going to be a strategy that they're going to be building to ensure that they really offer that quality service and that they can test that independently. They can evaluate that independently. So in other words, strategy is something that can be tested independently whether it achieves the desired outcome. The desired outcome is the end result. Guys, are you with me? Some of you guys, you might be strategy planners, you might be asked to do a strategies within the organization, and the question that was asked, any challenges that people might experience, I normally say that the inability to conduct business environment and analysis is one of the major things that people who are in that environment, that they will do what? A strategic plan. Understanding and appreciating various capabilities of managers, of people, all right? Remember, not everybody who goes to Mpebwe is a strategic thing, that remember. Some of them are there, they've been asked to go, all right? And the unfortunate thing is that when they are there, they're going to be asked to think. Remember, you hear people say, think out of the box. Remember that thing? Because they want to really think about the organization on how to improve the capability and the ability to reach what? The good results. So not everybody has that capability, but unfortunately as a manager, as a senior manager in an organization, in business, if you own a business, you are expected to be able to think, because the environment is very competitive. If University of Fort Hare now does not think of alternative energy here in this building, why must I bring my kids here? Natal, if it's dark, immediately, within a click of a button, God said there will be light. And for time, you've got to wait for what? For 15 minutes. All right? The inability to engage stakeholders, the inability to engage your recipients. You might think that you have a great strategy, all right? But one of the challenges that many companies do is this inability to engage their customer base. They take it for granted, all right? That no, customers will buy our products, will be able to make money, will balance our books, will get the market share. It's a fallacy, all right? If you do not engage those who receive your services, those who receive your products, if you do not engage at health, patients, when they receive their services, you will never know whether health is improving or not. Right? Most cases of Vodacom, they will always do a survey. You interact with them, immediately after 5 minutes, there's a survey. They want to know how have you been assisted by Vodacom. One of the other issues, strategies without communication plans. Why don't you develop this strategy? For what purposes? For internal purposes? One of the other factors is that many organizations tend to develop these strategies without communication plans, because you need to communicate your strategic thrust, that this is what you want to achieve as an organization. All right, she wants to become a billionaire. Unfortunately, it's a good example, eh? How are we going to monitor that she's going to be getting that billion? What performance indicators that is going to show that yes, she is achieving what? The billion. She's becoming a billionaire. So many organizations do not do what they call organizational performance assessment. In the public service there is right, it's important, it's required to do they call your monitoring and evaluation, to monitor whether the desired results, those objectives, those targets that are set, those priorities are achieved. So many organizations do not want to do that. They think that when they develop the strategy, they are fine. But remember the pattern, things do change, the environment changes, and you find that it's no longer that thrust. Escom was told in 1995, 96, that this country will experience a shortage of what? Of power. What did they do? They sponsored everybody. There was Escom, there wasn't Escom, no. Escom Cup, or they did all the good things. All right? Now we are in a what? In a challenge, probably call it a challenge. When we are in hard, whatever it is, all right? The strategy was not conceived to say what could be the risks. Well, the strategy without a risk is not complete. The strategy without a risk is not complete. Now we are suffering the what? we are currently told that this country is not a water sufficient resourced country. Water may become a problem. What are we doing? We're just drinking water. So we spoke about strategy formulation, guys, all right? Remember, I didn't speak about issues of the vision, the mission, the strategic objective. Those are the things that I want you guys to go and learn on your own, all right? I wanted to focus on this issue of strategy formulation and using what? Different business models, all right? So that is what it's saying. We started there. So let's try this out. There's an issue of examining the internal environment, remember? And the business model that we use for internal environment, I'm not going to repeat them. We identified what's called guys there. External environment, we've identified them, all right? And we then said, the outcomes of that is about what? It gives you the what? It gives you that. You don't go in the strategy plan and say, okay, what are the strengths of this organization? You don't do that. It's not helping you. All right? You firstly have to examine that internal environment using different models. There are plenty of them, but I always thought that guys, you research about others. Those two are easy to understand. They relate very well to whether it's a public service or a private organization. Then you have your SWOT analysis. Then you set your vision. What becomes the vision of this person that you want to do? Your mission, I'm not going to talk about. The strategy goals, the goal. Remember the end result that we spoke about is very important. Your objective that are going to take you in the what? In the next 5 to 10 years. I'm not going to talk about that. Those are the issues that for me I 101. We spoke about the performance indicators, all right? What will demonstrate that you are going to be able to achieve your goals or your targets, all right? We also spoke about, don't forget here, here. Execution, implementation, reporting, in other words, the whole assessment, the risk management aspect. Don't forget that one. When you develop your own strategic plan, ensure that you also consider what? Your risk. Because you need to ask yourself, what will be the strategic, what will be the risk in implementing the objective that you set yourselves? All right? Maybe ESCOM did not do the exercise completely. All right? Maybe ESCOM did not identify the risk that when the country opened, when the country was democratized, when the country said all will have access to power supply. All means what? All these rural villages in the province, in the country, will have access to what? To power supply. All right? But what is the risk? Remember, they were supplying a very few minority of people. Now they're going to supply what? The entire population. So the risk, perhaps, I'm saying perhaps, was not identified. But when a risk is not identified, you then see the what? The results. And we're living with the results now. All right? So in other words, wherever they are, I am thinking that they are dealing with what? With the consequences, and begin to say, what should be the new strategy? Is it alternative energy? All right? Is it more generation capacity? Is it about investing in coal? Is it about investing in wind turbines? All right? So they've got to develop a new strategy. I am done. Questions? They want to ask questions? Or I do ask questions? Questions, guys?
Just out of interest, why would you not, at a strategic session, why would you not do the SWOT analysis first?
Because it is not helping you to understand the internal environment that you perform, including the external environment. SWOT gives you outcomes of your analysis. You don't have to ask questions like, what is the strength of this organization? You don't have to do that. That strength you will visibly see when you do that analysis. Remember, witnesses, you'll see, you'll be able, you don't have to ask that. When you have analyzed and have that information, have that data, you will be able to point out, this is how we're performing in terms of the strength of this organization. If you look, for example, at the force field analysis, for example, remember we spoke about force field analysis? That should be able to give you what? If you have a bias, that analysis should be able to tell you as to what is the strength of the organization in ensuring that this aspect of bargaining does not affect you but to benefit as an organization that is selling a product or that is buying a product. So you don't go and say, let's do strength bias, all right? The analysis gives you new entrants, all right? What could new entrants do in your own organization? You were producing laptops, but now you see what? Touch laptops, this and this. Then what does that mean in terms of the SWOT? So in other words, new entrances can become a what? A threat. All right? But also those new entrances can become what? An opportunity to begin to work and compete or introduce new creative ideas about about improving your improving your own product that you want to market or you want to sell. Any other question, guys?
Are these models applicable to all types of businesses?
They are applicable. I have not tested that, but you can take any other, whether you take Coca-Cola, Coke, whether you take McDonald's as a company, a big brands company, BMW, all right? Remember, those companies are always working in that competitive environment, and they constantly do the analysis because they want to ensure that they outdo their competitors and that they achieve greater market share in terms of their returns. So majority of big brands and companies, including small business organizations, including your cooperatives, by the way, all right? For example, cooperatives, mainly they want to utilize Pastel, all right? Today's news, or yesterday's news, MEC of social development spoke in one event. She's a politician, eh? So now we've got a 1 billion rands for cooperatives, for women cooperatives. She spoke. So what does it mean? It means now cooperatives must begin to do what? To do something, to develop their strategies, all right? Because a politician, unfortunately, it's a politician that speaks. I then inquired from the administrators. Administrators, your MC spoke about this 1 billion rands. Is it true? That's out of the record, eh? So the administrator said, oh, it's our year budget. It's our year budget. Most people but we're only left with 500,000 now. So the political environment, all right? The ability to understand that environment, all right? New regulations have been promulgated, all right? So a politician and minister will say new regulations will be promulgated. What it means to business? It means business must begin to check up with their own compliance mechanism. Because there are new laws, there are new ways of doing things now. For example, there's a whole issue now about tourism. There's a report, people say there's an independent report that speaks about the decline of what? Of tourists coming to our country. What is the cause of that?
Immigration laws. There is a change in the immigration laws, and the issues in the news of tourists being harassed in Joburg or the Matambo airport. So those, they travel faster than them.
But the issue is the first one. Leave the harassment. We don't know the harassment one.
Visa requirements.
The visa requirements, because these are new regulations around what? About visas. So if we are operating in that space, and you are not well versed and following, your strategies will be what? Won't be working. You were attracting quite a huge number of tourists to our country, but the game has changed. The game has changed. This is what the game is over now. So you need to develop what? New strategies. All right? The scenarios have changed. All right? Scenarios of ESCOM changed post-94. So the strategies of ESCOM are no longer working because the scenario has changed. Everybody has to access what? Power. All right? Because the scenario, the game has changed. It's no longer the game of the what? Of the few. Now it's the game of the what? Of the majority. The game has changed for the visitors in our country. Now you must behave like any other person who's going to another country when you're applying what? The visa. The game has changed. So those companies that were attracting tourists, they've got to readjust their strategies. Because the environment, the political environment or the legislative environment has changed. Do you see, guys? So those tourism coming, they are not just going to do what? Just doing a SWOT. They are going to be analyzing those what? They are going to be using those business models to say, what is the political environment? What is the legislative environment? Because these things change the pattern. Remember, we spoke about the pattern. Strategy is about understanding the pattern of what? Of environment, of what is happening in the world out there. Guys, I'm done. If you do not have another question, thank you very much. All right, I wish you guys good luck. I'm hoping that you'll proceed to a master's level and begin to create your own jobs. Okay? And become entrepreneurs. But remember, not everybody can become an entrepreneur. Others assist in the entrepreneurial world. Others got to learn these things so that you assist in that development or in that environment of becoming what? An entrepreneur. So now you know. So when you write the exam, you must know about it. Don't say I told you.
On behalf of the Strategic Management class, I'd like to thank you for giving us this very interesting presentation. I apologize for your shortened biography. This is a strategic gift from us to invite you back for next time to share some more knowledge with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.